Provost Glover, leaders, faculty, and members of the class of 2024.
Graduates, we can only imagine your joy that just as you're about to finally leave UF, you get to listen to not one more professor, but two more professors.
So you may be thinking, what can two speakers say that one cannot?
At other universities this fall, lone speakers are sharing stories to help graduates find their superpowers. We want to tell you about a superpower that we believe is stronger than any other.
We've gone to the ends of the earth, literally. I've touched the moon. Rob has touched space. We've been able to achieve these seemingly superhuman feats through deliberation and collaboration. We play on each other's strengths, exploring and innovating collaboratively, rather than trying to individually leap tall buildings in a single bound. Our superpower is sharing our powers.
Graduates, you are each about to embark on your own amazing journeys. Our message to you is to join hands with others, counting on shared persistence over individual heroics. We feel you'll get more done and experience more joy in the journey.
You'll find your greatest superpower
is in sharing your powers.
So Rob and I have dedicated our lives to a science exploration journey. We're a team, but we're very different people. Rob knows I've got all manner of survival gear in my backpack, and I know that if the GPS breaks, Rob can pilot us out with his crazy internal compass.
It's that kind of synergy that has helped us ask one of humanity's biggest questions. Can life, our form of terrestrial life, exist away from the Earth?
We focus on plants because plants are what enable humans to be explorers. From the ancient Polynesians exploring the Pacific to humanity's journey to Mars, plants get us past the limits of a picnic basket. We look at their genes because that's how we discover the tools that they use to adapt to these environments.
But getting off the planet is hard. So we've spent a lot of time working at the Earth's polar regions, where the remote and unforgiving conditions are more like that of other worlds.
The Arctic is a beautiful and desolate place, but you don't work there alone. The desolation and the dangers require that we do everything in teams. So when Rob and I hike out onto the Arctic terrain, one of us has to carry a shotgun to keep our eyes peeled for polar bears, and the other carries a radio in case we need rescue. Thankfully, we've never seen a bear or gotten lost, but if we did, we'd be stronger together.
Sometimes things go wrong. Yep, sometimes things go wrong with our equipment, and we need to jury-rig fixes in the field. Once we had to retrofit small glass filters into our specialized cameras. Out came Annalisa's Swiss Army knife, perfect tool for the fix. It was a fist bump moment of success. Yeah.
So many of you have turned to friends or study partners for skills and knowledge that you don't have. So I'm a connector. I think about trying things together. Rob's a tinkerer. He thinks about tools and guiding us. I'm columns, he's rows.
And you need both rows and columns in your spreadsheet in order to be effective. Unlike those who believe in unilateral superpowers, we've learned that our path to success is about sharing our powers, actually counting on those different ways that we think.
So we wanted an even better place to simulate the conditions that astronauts may someday encounter, and we found that place in Antarctica. It's even more remote and even more like another world. We lived with other scientists in the Neumayer 3 station, which is perched on the Ekstrom ice shelf, which is more like Starship Enterprise than a building.
At Neumayer, you have to go outside through an airlock, just like in space. You have to wear heavy red coveralls like a spacesuit, which you then leave inside the airlock when you go back inside. And very literally, your life depends on others.
Not these penguins, though. For some reason, they didn't want to connect, collaborate, or share their powers with us.
We learned a lot more by building a greenhouse in Antarctica, but research there was hard. We needed more days of intense planning, more packing and repacking, more exhausting travel, dozens more of those little fixes. We fought in frustration sometimes. We celebrated successes, yeah, with those fist bumps.
So it's popular to say you should move fast and break things, and we've done that a time or two. But the truth is that Rob and I often move slow and make things because it's important to think carefully about what we need for extreme desolations and extreme destinations.
But even going to both ends of the Earth couldn't answer one of those basic questions we were interested in. How can we know if plants will grow in otherworldly ground? It turns out that there is some otherworldly stuff right here on Earth. It's the samples collected on the moon and brought back by the astronauts in the Apollo program, including Neil Armstrong on Apollo 11.
NASA guards its lunar samples as a national treasure. We submitted our first proposal to use some of that treasure in 2010. The answer was no. We wrote a second proposal. Again, no. A third proposal. No again. So, with your friends or your study partners, you know it's easier to face failure together, which we did again and again.
And on our fourth proposal, and you've probably been through things like this, we again felt sure we had it nailed. But we added a third scientist, a geologist from the Department of Geology here on campus, to add to our powers. And after 10 years, the answer finally was, yeah. NASA sent us a few teaspoons of the moon, 12 grams in all. Annalisa put about a gram from each of 3 Apollo sites into 12 high-tech pots that were carefully designed for a tiny lunar garden. And that, as she said, is how she touched the moon.
So we put our wee garden in a growth chamber, moistened the lunar dirt, added a few seeds, and waited. And it took superhuman willpower to not check the chamber every second. But we'll never forget the moment when, after a few days, we peered through the glass and saw the tiny green seedlings. This is the first plants ever grown in extraterrestrial dirt. It was historic, and it was humbling, and it was awe-inspiring. So we know our kind of life can live on another world.
Now that was a superpower, fist bump human moment. But it took sharing our powers. Rather than moving fast and breaking things, we moved slow over those many years and made things. It's all about that deliberative sharing. Sharing the work, sharing the rejection, sharing the fights and the fist bumps, sharing the joy of tiny green shoots in lunar dirt.
I touched the moon. And Rob touched space. After many years of trying, he finally got the all clear to fly to space with our experiment earlier this year. Our goal for that experiment was to capture the gene responses of plants as they travel to and from space. We put plants in specially designed tubes that were attached to Rob's flight suit so that he could activate to capture those responses during the flight. We would activate an identical set of tubes at the same time on the ground control. We spent hours training in our lab at UF 5 Field Hall with Rob strapped into a mock flight chair. He was more than a little sheepish about walking around the building in that flight suit.
Yeah, but Annalisa helped me adhere to the discipline of that practice and be brave. Yeah, even brave about looking goofy walking around the halls in that spacesuit. Then on a cool August morning, I joined 5 other crew members atop the Blue Origin New Shepard rocket in the Chihuahuan Desert in West Texas. Take a minute and imagine sitting there in the capsule, looking out at the Guadalupe Mountains in the distance, waiting for launch. It's T-minus 6 minutes. Take a deep breath of satisfaction, awe, and especially thankfulness. As this moment captures 6 trips to the Arctic, 2 trips to Antarctica, the awe of seeing those green shoots in lunar soil. I did feel like I had superpowers sitting up there in that rocket, but it only happened because of the sharing of our human powers. Annalisa's columns and my rows. Imagine the red-orange glow of the exhaust of the rocket as it leaves the launch pad for space. Many people have asked me what moment stood out. I'm going to go over one of those moments in a little bit. But one of them was the incredibly deep, suck the brain right out of your head, black void of space above the curve of the Earth below.
And here's the real mind blower. Our first of its kind experiment was successful. Rob doesn't remember doing it, but he activated the experimental tubes in perfect sync with the experiments on the ground, and the data we gathered are invaluable. We did it as a team, and it can be only done as a team. Graduates, I got to touch the moon.
And I got to touch space.
Those are things that superheroes do, but our superpower was our shared powers. Our journey needed both of us, going boldly, being persistent, making things rather than breaking things, and our working with others to explore our world and beyond.
I mentioned a little bit earlier about the most important moments. One of our favorite astronauts, Alan Bean, one of the Apollo 12 astronauts who collected some of the very moon that Annalisa grew those plants in, a moonwalker, had this to say: "I found that the memories of the people I worked with and the friends I made are more memorable than walking on the moon."
Think of the power that those words carry. It's not the achievement, but the joy of sharing the journey, just as you have done with your friends and your fellow Gators here at UF.
We'd like to celebrate your accomplishment and your shared journey with one of those fist bumps, just like we do. In honor of your hard work and all the times you counted on others and your families have counted on others to get you to reach this day, we invite you to fist bump the graduates and the people around you on the count of 3. 1, 2, 3.
Whatever great thing you do, go boldly and explore. And remember that your superpower will be sharing your powers and the journey.
We're in this together, Gators, on Earth and wherever humans go next. And we will always root for you from the stars. Thank you
and congratulations.